Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni moli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so very delighted and so very, very honored that you are joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. Our guest today is Ashley Belote. She is here to celebrate her picture book, The Me Tree. Before we invite Ashley into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by 14 Monkeys, a rainforest rhyme, a beautiful picture book written by our friend Melissa Stewart. Travel to a tropical rainforest where 14 species of monkeys live in harmony in this playful, fact-filled book from award-winning author Melissa Stewart and Caldecott Honors illustrator Steve Jenkins, and Manu National Park in Peru. An amazing 14 different species of monkeys live together. That's more than in any other rainforest in the world. How can they coexist so well? You'll find out in this lyrical rhyming picture book that explores each monkey's diet, habits, and homes, illustrating how this delicate ecosystem and its creatures live together in harmony. From howler monkeys to spider monkeys to night monkeys, young readers will love getting to know these incredible primates and seeing the amazing ways they share their forest. Check it out today, 14 Monkeys, a rainforest rhyme by Melissa Stewart. Joining us right now from right outside Charlotte in the beautiful state of North Carolina. Our guest today is here to celebrate her debut picture book that she authored. Please welcome to the show, Ashley Belote. Hey, Ashley, how are you?
I'm so good, Jed. Thank you very, very much for having me on the show today. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm excited to have you on the show. Now, as I mentioned, this is the first book that you authored. You're an author-illustrator, and you did the illustrations and the writing for this book. You've illustrated a couple of other children's books. Just before we get into what the Me Tree is all about, how did it feel going, I don't know what medium you use to create your illustrations, but, putting those down for the moment and using a keyboard to write the story?
Oh, it was definitely a different experience than I've had before. Coming from solely illustration, everything is in pictures. And I found myself when I was working on the manuscript, I was doodling. So I actually wrote the story in pictures first and then went back and added the words because I'm such a visual person. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how my brain works and how my creative process ended up working out. And I have since been working on a few other manuscripts and found that has really worked for me. So I'll just see it kind of in my head first, playing out like a film, and then, like I said, go back in and add the words later on. So it was definitely, it was different because coming from just illustration, the words are already there. You've got this base to perform from. So to create both sides was really, really fun. It was a challenge, which I loved. So it's been a fantastic experience so far.
That's wonderful. I'm picturing in my mind you creating the story with the doodles as you're going along. Is that how your mind has always worked, or did you kind of train yourself to do that?
It's how my mind's always worked. I have really been drawing since forever. I can't remember a time when I didn't draw as a kid. And in school, I would doodle on all of my notebook pages while I was listening to the teacher. And I grew up watching a lot of animated movies, and I would never sit and watch the full movie. I would always draw the characters while the movie was playing. So it's just kind of ingrained in me to draw no matter what's happening elsewhere in the world and in my world. So it's part of who I am, which is why I'm so blessed and feel so excited to be able to pursue this as a career.
Yeah, I used to doodle in class when I wasn't listening to the teacher, and didn't seem to help me.
We all have different talents. It's okay.
So tell us about the Me Tree, please.
Oh, I am so excited to talk about this book, finally. Publishing is one of those businesses that you don't get instant gratification from. So I finished the art for this early this year, January, February timeframe, and I'm finally going to get to see it in a few weeks. So I'm very excited. It's about a bear who we open up the story to seeing Bear in his cave with all the other bears who don't seem to mind being squished, but he's decided that it's time for him to have some space to himself. So he leaves the cave and he buys a tree, and he calls it the Me Tree, where he can be alone. He can watch his shows by himself. He can eat his food by himself. But unbeknownst to him, the tree is actually home to a number of uninvited guests. And so there's some squirrels that pop in. There's a random manatee who makes an appearance, a giraffe later on. So they just kind of get bigger and more extravagant. And he gets upset and he says, I came here to be by myself. You all need to leave. And after all of the other animals leave, he decides that, well, maybe that wasn't so bad to be part of this unique family. And then they decide to kind of reinvent the tree from the Me Tree into the We Tree, a place where they can all live comfortably together.
That's really fun. And it obviously touches on a subject that lots of kids struggle with. I mean, lots of adults struggle with this idea of, breaking out of the me, and understanding that, no, it works better when we think of we. Mm-hmm. Well, not we, never mind.
All the way home.
Where did the inspiration for the book come from?
So I'm actually an only child. And growing up, I had a huge family that was comprised mostly of people who I wasn't actually related to. So my parents' friends were my aunts and uncles. And since I was an only child, we took my friends with me on trips and everything. So they became my, stand-in siblings, and they are part of my family. And I love that idea of, just because you're not, blood related to people doesn't mean that you can't be a family. And I consider my very close friends my family. And I think that's a really important concept to understand, that families don't all have to look the same. We don't all have to be from the same place. We don't have to have known each other since birth to be family. You can meet somebody today who becomes a part of your family. And I think that's extremely important, especially with today's climate during the pandemic in particular. We have all kind of been displaced mentally, some of us physically. And it's just really important to lean on your family members and to incorporate those closest to us as parts of our own family.
That's so important. And I agree with you. I'm so happy that now our definition of family has really expanded, thankfully. I grew up in a neighborhood where most of the people in the neighborhood were related to me. It was really kind of annoying. I'd go down the street and someone would correct me, and I'm like, who are you to talk? I'm your cousin. I'm like, okay.
I love that.
But it's so, and again, especially now where we're all moving and, we're spread out and family, like my daughter now lives in Baltimore, a couple hundred miles away from us here in Boston. Mm-hmm. And so I definitely, want her to always know she is part of my family, and she's my daughter. That will never change. But if she is staying in Baltimore, I want her to understand that she needs to find a tribe, a group of people she can call family down there, family that can support her and to love.
Right, exactly. It's so important, especially nowadays. You need a support system. There are so many crazy things happening in the world, and you need to know that you can find comfort in those nearest to you, even if they're not physically close by. You can jump on Zoom, you can have a phone call, whatnot, but it is important to have people right next to you, like you said, wherever you are in your new location, if you've moved. And it's important to understand that you have to keep an open mind about these things too. Whenever Bear went to this tree, he had no idea what was going to happen. but eventually opened his mind to the possibility that this can work. This feels good. This is nice and comforting. And that's something that's often hard to do because we tend to be closed off in an unfamiliar place. But it's something that you just have to be brave about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I also love the fact that it's just not other bears that Bear welcomes to his family. It's squirrels and giraffes and a manatee. I don't know how a manatee ends up in the woods.
He comes in a bathtub. It's great.
All right. I want to talk about all emotional issues here, but I have to go there. How much fun was it as you were creating and doing the doodling? I'm just imagining you sitting there and it's like, oh, the bear, the tree, the squirrels. Oh, that's cute. Oh, a manatee in a bathtub. And were there any animals that you just said, well, now this is too outrageous. We can't have this?
I mean, I think a manatee is pretty outrageous.
It is.
Yeah. When I was trying to figure out which animals to include, I did want to go there. I've been trying to do this thing with my art where I just go to the extremes. When you are thrown into a situation where you're making a book or something, you tend to be on the cautious side if it's, early in your career, which I am. So I decided that there's no reason for me to hold back. I'm just going to go there and see what happens. So I was like, a manatee would be hilarious. Manatees, though, live in water. So there needs to be some type of water element. So I was like, well, a bathtub would work. That's a mobile water unit. So, so I went there.
That's really cool. And I'm guessing, I don't know, were you just cracking yourself up and just laughing as you were, drawing that first manatee in the tub in the tree illustration?
Yes. I love humor in books. I love reading humorous picture books. I love watching comedies. Growing up, my mom and I laughed all the time. No matter what type of situation we were in, you have to laugh. I think humor and laughter can heal, and it can make horrible situations just a little bit better. So I've always turned to humor. And, this whole experience of me trying to write and illustrate was a very scary one. You're going out on your own. There's competition. There's other factors. You have self-doubt that creeps in. And it's one of those things where I went to my comfortable place, which was humor. And that really did it ended up driving the story because that's what I was familiar with and comfortable with. But it did allow me to then branch out, so to speak, with the tree and really explore. So I was really happy with how it turned out. And just, again, it's hard to take that step and try something new, but it's important to do it.
It really is important to do, and it's a great lesson for kids. And one of the things that I hope happens with this podcast is, as a parent is listening to you and thinking, yeah, I want to add the me tree to my family library, and then reading the book with their kids, I really hope that you share Ashley's insights and her inspiration and share the fact I was listening to Ashley when talk about this, and she said she was laughing the whole time she was drawing the manatee.
Yes, absolutely. I think that I love doing interviews like this because you get the story behind the story. I love listening to author interviews and podcasts. It is so much fun because you do hear those little behind the scenes details, like the little peek behind the curtain. I love sharing this stuff.
So one of the things I love to find out, because I have zero artistic ability in terms of drawing and painting and things like that. I'm having a blast creating stuff on Canva. I don't know if it's any good, but it's fun.
It is fun.
But how did your folks support you and your desire, your interest in illustration as you were growing up?
I was very blessed in that way. I have two very creative parents, and growing up, they owned a small independent publishing house. So I have literally grown up in this business. They are both very artistic, and my mom in college, she wasn't really sure what track to go down. So she just ended up majoring in a lot of different things, which ended up really preparing her for the publishing business because you do so many different things and you're involved in so many different subjects. And they always drew with me and painted with me and encouraged me. And because they owned their own business, they weren't going to a 9-to-5 job. They just kind of worked all the time and took me with them. And my mom took over the company when I was 12, 13, and I ended up traveling with her to these publishing trade shows. And so she always encouraged me, both of them did, but my mom really encouraged me to just do what I felt like I was called to do, and that was to illustrate books. And obviously my childhood kind of prepared me for that because I was going to these shows so young, and I loved every minute of it. I would, starting off, I would run the cash register because I couldn't really do anything else. I was a kid. But then as I got a little bit older, I was, helping authors get to and from interviews and just helping out really as best I could in any place that I needed to be. And then when I started to decide this is really the path that I want to go on, she and my dad encouraged me fully. They said that they had always received support from their parents, and because not going to a 9-to-5 job is risky. Owning your own business is risky. It certainly is. But it's something that if you are passionate about it, you'll work at it all the time and you'll make it successful. Mm-hmm. And it's not like it's easy, for sure. There's a lot of side jobs that have happened along the way. I was a secretary at a Mercedes dealership for a while. Well, a showroom manager. That's what I like to call myself. And, all these things that you have to do to make your dreams come true. And eventually, you just keep working at it and you'll get there. But like I said, for my entire family, in particular, my mom, it's been such a wonderful series of encouraging situations. And she's the first person I call when I have good news, and we celebrate still. And she's still in the publishing business, too. So it's just amazing that we are in this business and we both love it so much and can connect on that level.
I love that you're sharing that. There are a lot of families that have a hard time wrapping their head around entrepreneurship and in the creative, and if you're a creative person, whether you're an artist or a magician or a musician, you're an entrepreneur. You are going out there and you're creating something, and then you're going to sell it. And if you're an author, you're an entrepreneur. And as soon as authors and artists are able to grasp that they're more than just an artist, that they are an entrepreneur, they're entering into a business, the more successful they'll be. And yes. But I know for my family, it was really difficult for them because it was, they were brought up with the whole get a good gig that you're going to be able to keep and hold on to forever, and then get a pension. And that was great, but those jobs aren't around as much as they had been. And so it's important for those families who don't have that entrepreneurial blood or experience to kind of relax and encourage their kids that, yeah, this is going to be okay, but you understand, you want to be a creative, you want to be an entrepreneur, it's going to be a lot of work.
Yes, all the time. You never stop working. And it's been very interesting. I got married about 2 years ago, and my husband is extremely encouraging of my creative career, which is nice because he does go the 9-to-5 route, which is what he loves. Certain people love certain things, and it's been very interesting to see how that lifestyle is because, again, my parents own their own business. I'd never really been around that structured type of schedule before. And so it is very interesting because he does love it. And I, after having seen that, realized that I really love mine. I really love mine. And it's so amazing too, because again, I get that support now from him, and then the support from the rest of my family at home. So it takes, they say it takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a village to support somebody who has a creative career. And it's very important if you do know somebody who is going out on their own, trying to do their own business, being an entrepreneur, to support them, because it is very scary for them. Even if they don't act like it on the outside, you can't. Most of the time, you fake it till you make it, and, just do your best. Don't let them see you sweat. But it is extremely encouraging when you can get some support from those that are closest to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I guess an obvious question is, do you have aspirations to become a publisher at some point?
I have thought about that with my background and everything. I've kind of seen a little bit how it works on the independent side.
Mm-hmm.
I love making so much that I don't know that I would ever want to get away from that side of it. That's not to say that I would never pursue something like that, but I feel it in my body if I'm not drawing that I like have this urge to draw. Like I have to have a crayon or a pencil or something. It is who I am. It's part of my identity. So I don't know that I would like a job as much if I couldn't draw all the time. Even when, like, it's not to say that they don't do creative things. Like being an art director, I think is the route I would go if I were to get away from the making side, just because you're still so involved with the artistic process in that role. I'll never say never to anything, but for right now, I'm extremely happy and I have so many ideas and projects that I want to pursue on the making craft side.
As I'm listening to you, I have a feeling that you're one of these people when you go to a restaurant, you ask the waitress for the crayons and the the placemat that you can draw on.
You are 100% correct. And it's amazing because I have a 3.5-year-old niece, and every time we get together, it's a great excuse at a restaurant to be like, we have a kid at our table. We're probably going to need an extra one. She really likes to draw. Mm-hmm. So it's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, this is the debut book for you that, as an illustrator and author, but you've illustrated a couple of other books. Can you tell us about those real quick?
Yes. So my debut picture book is Frankenslime, written by the amazing Joy Keller and published by Fievel and Friends, an imprint of Macmillan. And that was my very first experience working on this level, and it was a fantastic experience. The editorial team, the art director, everybody was absolutely amazing. I learned a ton. They say that, you learn something new every day. I learned like 15 new things every day, and it really helped me develop my art. And I learned skills that I was then able to apply to additional projects. And so that was Frankenslime. It came out this past July, and the sequel to Frankenslime is called Valenslime, also written by Joy Keller and published by Fievel and Friends. And that comes out November 16th. So just a few short days after the Me Tree comes out. So I'm super excited for November to get here. And I also have a few projects on the horizon. My author illustrator picture book, Listen Up Luella, from Fievel and Friends, will come out next year. So I'm hopeful that I'll be able to do a lot of in-person events when that time rolls around.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any hopes that the Me Tree will become an animated film?
I would absolutely love that. I have a background in 2D animation. I took a seminar course from Don Bluth and learned about the 2D animation process, which really helped me in my illustration process in general, learning backgrounds, learning character placement, staying on model with your characters and like that. I don't know that I would actually animate it. I would be happy for, like a professional animation team with experience to animate it. I would love to see it become an animated series. I do have a sequel for the Me Tree that will be out next fall, called A Partridge in the Wee Tree. And it's a Christmas one, which will be fun to celebrate around the holidays. So we'll see what happens, but that would be really fun.
That's awesome. Well, I know people are going to want to know where they can go to find out more about the Me Tree and find out more about Ashley Belote.
Yes, they can visit my website. It's ashleybelote.com. Very easy. I'm extremely active across all social media platforms. My Twitter is at @AshleyBelote and the number 1. And Instagram is at Ashley Belote Illustration. And I post regularly. I try to do as much as I can. Social media is a full-time job, but it's so much fun to get on and share some sketches every once in a while and chat with some people in the industry. I am part of an amazing debut group called Picture Book Playground. And it's a group of about 20 authors and illustrators, and we support each other through social media all the time. And it's become a great community, somewhat like a family. And it's a great experience to join a debut group. And I'm also part of several critique groups. So if you're out there and you're a writer or an illustrator and you're a little, hesitant about getting into this, join a critique group because you'll be with your people. Yeah. You'll find your family that way.
That's awesome. We've had a great time talking about illustrations and entrepreneurship and about the Me Tree with our guest, Ashley Belote. Hey, Ashley, this was a blast. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Jed. I've really enjoyed it.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. It's going to be another Reading with Your Kids Rewind, a look back at some of the most memorable moments from the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you are the author of a fantastic children's book, you may be frustrated at how difficult it is to let the world know about your books. We seem to be coming out of the pandemic, out of the lockdown. Some bookstores are having some more book signings. Some libraries are having author visits. Some schools, not so much. It's really difficult. Even in the best of times, it is difficult to let people know about your book. I mean, there are literally thousands of books published every single, you thought I was going to say year. Every single month, there are thousands of books published. We can help you let the world know about your great book. Go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors Click Here button that you'll find at the top of the page. That way you can find out how to be a guest on the podcast. You can find out about our fantastic Certified Great Read program. And you can find out about our brand new monthly Authors Promotion Program. This is an incredible program that will let people listening to the podcast know about your book, let our 50,000 plus social media followers know about your book, and get your book seen on a network, a nationwide network of pedestrian billboards. Check it out today, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to start by thanking our guest, Ashley Belote. Please be sure to check out The Me Tree. Also want to thank Melissa Stewart. Be sure to check out 14 Monkeys. Really, really fun book. I also want to thank my team, Alejandro Doherty, Fatima Khan, Michael Murphy, Rory Grady. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.